Welcome back to the plaid-avenger.com, where we don't just want to hear the news, we want to understand the news. And now we got to get to Russia for some really nasty news this week, some of which you probably heard about. Did you hear about that March 29th? A double suicide bombing on the Moscow metro, the underground subway system? You probably did. You probably didn't hear about, just 48 hours later, another double suicide bombing blast in a small town called Kislyar in Dagestan. You don't even know where that's at. Oh, but you will, my friends, before this plaid-cast is through. Let's entitle this one, Russian Rage at Black Widow Bombing. Ooh, sounds nefarious. It is, and I'd hate to be in these bombers' shoes right about now. Well, of course, they're dead, but they're brethren. Now, let's talk about the Russian Rage first. What am I talking about? Whoa! Now, any world leader gets upset and perhaps miffed and a bit serious when their country gets attacked, right? No one gets as enraged as the Russians do. And they don't hold anything back when something bad happens, particularly when it's terrorist act related. For their part, the Russian leadership has been absolutely livid and can barely contain its rage over this double suicide bombing blast which happened on Monday. Russian President Dmitry Medvedev came outright, laid a wreath at the train station where the blast occurred, and he looked like his head was about to explode. He was so furious, he could have choked his own grandmother to death. He was enraged, and he said, "We will find these people responsible, and they will be killed." Can you get any more forthright than that? Since then, he's actually visited the North Caucasus region a couple days ago and said something to the effect of, "We want to actually enact more cruel measures to root out the beast responsible for these heinous acts." Woo! Watch out! For his part, not to be outdone, Russian President Vlad the Man Putin has came out and said that the Russian government is going to take great pleasure in scraping the bottom of the sewers to find those responsible. And they're going to search out the bottom of every outhouse to get the people responsible for this and punish them to the fullest extent of the law, which in Russia means death. Now, why would I suggest this? Because, come on, every world leader is going to get a little angry when their people get attacked. No. Make no bones about this. The Russians are furious. They do not like this. And unlike other world leaders, they will not hold back to try to find the folks responsible for this and crush the entire movement. And I'm telling you this because a lot of innocent people are probably going to get caught in the crossfire. I would hate to be anyone who even remotely looks or smells like a terrorist or an independence freedom fighter or a rebel anywhere in the North Caucasus regions, because they're going to get damaged. The long arm of Putin is going to come down with the iron fist, and the iron boot of Medvedev is coming up their ass at the same time to crush anybody. And when they get in this mood, they ain't worried about human rights. They're not worried about due justice of law. Get the hell with that. Crush the dissent. You're going to see it. It's coming. And I'd hate to be caught in the North Caucasus when it shit goes down, which it really kind of is right now. Now, I've mentioned Black Widows. I've mentioned North Caucasus many times. What's going on with this? Well, as soon as this bombing occurred, before anybody even claimed it, the entire Russian government, Medvedev and Putin and everybody else already knew it was Chechen separatists. They already knew it. They don't even need evidence. They don't care. Luckily for them, Chechen rebel leader came out on the internet a couple days later and claimed it. So they're like, good, now let's go kill all the Chechens. Shouldn't be that harsh. You're not going to kill them all. But watch out. It's not going to be pretty. So what is this I'm suggesting in the North Caucasus? These Black Widow female suicide bombers, as coined by the Russian government. That's where they came from, these Chechan or Dagestani Black Widows from the North Caucasus. Well, that's what we want to come here to the plaid-cast for, to understand the background of the events. Why would people from the North Caucasus region be bombing stuff in Moscow? Because this is a new event, but this ain't new, friends. This has been going on for 20 years. Some would argue 200 attacks by ethnic folks from this certain area on Moscow. So what's the deal? Well, let's start with the where, then we'll get to the who, the why, and everything else. The where is the North Caucasus region. The Caucasus Mountains are a formidable, tough mountain range which spans from the Black Sea to the Caspian Sea. Average high elevation, 16, 17, 18,000 to 22,000 feet. We're talking about a tough terrain, all right? It's hard to penetrate. It's easy to defend. It's a tough place. And On top of that, what you have is that this is the north of the Caucasus. Okay, it's a nice little picket fence which separates Russia proper from the countries to its south. And let's zoom in a little bit more here and look at some other geographic names to attach to this place. You see that it's separated. This area just north of the mountains is separated into different little kind of republics, almost like states of the United States. And these are states that are based mostly on ethnicity. Let's zoom into a political map of this North Caucasus region for a bit more definition and detail. You see that it's separated into kind of sub-states, kind of little republics, each of which has its own little name, and those names are based mostly on different ethnicities. Yeah, that's right. See North Ossetia there, right? That's mostly Ossetians. Or Ingushetia is mostly Ingushetians. And Chechnya, that's mostly ethnic Chechens. But don't forget Dagestan right next door, mostly ethnically Dagestanis. Now, I keep saying they're ethnic this and ethnic that because they are not ethnic Russians. These are not Russian peoples. On top of that, and this is really important, and I'm not picking on my Islamic friends, but they are all overwhelmingly Islamic as well. They are not Russian, Eastern Orthodox, or Christian. So they're different ethnically, they're different religiously, and that sets them quite apart from the Russians in every conceivable way. Now, before I go any further, let me state for the record, everything north of the Caucasus, that Caucasus mountain range, is part of sovereign Russia. This is Russian territory. Nobody is disputing that. However, most of the folks in these little ethnic conclaves have not wanted to be part of Russia, not since they became part of Russia, perhaps over 120 years ago. And that's the kind of, how did this happen? Why is there conflict? How do these folks who are not Russian get into Russia? As is the case with so many ethnic minorities across planet Earth that find themselves in other sovereign states here in the year 2010, the Chechens, the Dagestanis, the North Ossetians, these are areas that were absorbed by the expanding Russian Empire well over 120, 130 years ago. These are areas that have been fought over between Russia and, say, the Turks, the Ottoman Turks, and the Russians and others over the centuries. And, of course, the Russian Empire then becomes the Soviet Union in 1917, and really they are under the Soviet umbrella for the better part of the 20th century, and even under their Soviet experience, all these little ethnic republics are actually granted kind of republic status, so they were like the Chechen Republic of the USSR. They're part of a state of the bigger state, a sub-state of the bigger state. You get all that? And here's why I'm telling you the background. You can't understand the conflict today without understanding this. Under the Russians, under the Soviets, under anybody, the Chechens and others really chafed under this rule. They did not want to be part of these bigger empires. They said, we're ethnically different, we're religiously different, we're not like you, we don't want to be ruled by you, we don't want your rules. That is not new. You can look at this as a 200-year kind of continued civil war or war for independence. Not that all the Chechens have done, not that all the Ossetians have done, but some of them for sure. And there's been hot spots of violence in this North Caucasus region forever. All right? So why is it so hot now? Because the Soviet Union went away in 1991. Surprise for anybody that didn't know that. Soviet Union collapses, and here's why it's important for our Chechen story and our subway bombing story, is that in 1991, Soviet Union collapses. Russia is the kind of the big state, the big remnant state of the USSR that's left over, but 15 new countries or 14 new countries also pop up because the Russians are weak at that time. They can't hold on to their old Soviet empire, so other ethnic minorities within the Soviet Union declare independence and say they want their own country. Oh, I don't know, places like Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Georgia, Azerbaijan. These are all areas that used to be republics of the Soviet Union that said when the Russians were weak, when the Soviet Union collapsed, said, hey, we're out. We declare independence. We want out. We never liked the Russians or the Soviets anyway. And they do get out. And it's the same time period, the same exact time that the Chechens and the Dagestanis and a few others said, hey, yay, we're finally going to get to be free. Look, the Estonians did it and the Kazakhs did it, so we declare independence too. And unfortunately for them, that is when the Russian Empire, the remnant of the Russian Empire, Russia, said, "Niet."